So good evening, everybody. Although it's, I call it about the CV, but it's more than about the CV. It's about strategic thinking about yourself, professional branding, and your career. And so I am going to start from the beginning. And I actually like to tell a story. Um, I grew up in the 80s, the 70s and the 80s, really. And in 1980, there was what's called a miracle on ice. The U.S. hockey team beat the Russians, the Soviets, in the Olympics, and it was a big deal to us because the Soviets were professional hockey players, and the Americans were a bunch of college kids, University of Minnesota and Boston University, and it was totally like wasn't a fair. It was amateurs against professionals, and yet the U.S. won the gold, so it was a really big deal. And so there's been a number of movies made about it called Miracle on Ice and other things. And so these college kids are coming from different places. And the coach, who was a real tough guy, Herb Brooks, I think was his name, and he was a great coach. And he would say to them, "Who do you play for?" And they say, "Boston University." "Who do you play for?" "I play for Minnesota." And as he's training them for the Olympics, as time goes on, he says to them, "Who do you play for?" And they say, "USA." And that was a change in their mindset, that they realized that they weren't just a group of disparate players from different colleges, but they were representing the United States of America, and they're changing themselves into a team. And it was that team sensibility that allowed them to ultimately win the gold. And so, however you defined yourself in the past, you have to begin to define yourself in a new way for your future, in your professional future. And that way, and again, I can't tell you what it is, but I can give you a hint that it's going to have something to do with cybersecurity. So whether you're going to be a pen tester or a SOC analyst or an IR professional or a GRC specialist or whatever you're going to be, but you should already call yourself, either a cybersecurity student or a cybersecurity junior professional or something like that. But you need to start thinking about yourself in light of your career in cybersecurity. Because it's not just, I'll use a Yiddish expression, it's not the Seite Kazach. It's not something on the side. It's something about your zehut, about your identity and who and what you are. And that'll be really important in determining your success in your future, is defining yourself and creating what we call your professional brand. I am a cybersecurity professional who specializes in XYZ, and I bring all this value to the table, and I can help your company by doing this stuff. And so in every form of communication that you'll have as a professional, which will start with your CV and will continue in your job interview, it will be related to your LinkedIn profile that you'll create. All those things will be carrying a message about who you are and what you're about and your professional persona. And so before you can project that in LinkedIn or your CV or anywhere else, you got to think about it. You got to become something. You have to realize who you are as a professional. So what I want to talk about tonight is sort of rethinking ourselves, how to think about ourselves in this professional branding type of way. Particularly, we will focus a little bit about your CV. Maybe it's your first CV, maybe it's maybe it's not. I will share with you a few sample CVs, which I think maybe will help you break the ice in writing one for yourself, or maybe you've already tried, whatever. But before we even start, I'll tell you that I'm for sure here for you. So as soon as when you have a CV or you're ready to send it out, or you need to already, so please send it to me and I will review it and put red ink on it and send it back to you. So this is something, I know something about this, and I want to help you. So my presentation is called Creating a Killer CV. I have a set of books on my bookshelf. They're called Knock 'em Dead, and Knock 'em Dead resumes, and Knock 'em Dead job interviews, and Knock 'em Dead professional whatever. So a lot of the basic information and approach I got from Mr. Knock 'em Dead, whose name is Yates. And he's a really smart and good guy who's really honed this craft into a science. And so we'll talk about, there's a lot of online tools out there to help you out. But again, I don't want to totally focus on the nuts and bolts, at least not at the beginning. I'm a big picture person, and I want to talk about strategic thinking, how you need to think about your CV. Like, if you didn't think about it, You might just take a piece of paper or open a Word file and make a list of what you've done for the past 5 years. Well, I went to high school here, I went to seminar here, and I went to yeshiva here, and now I took this course, and that's who I am. So schwachemaises, that's not going to cut it. That's not how you do your CV, okay? So we're going to talk about tonight the frame of mind of the message. What's the goal? What's the objective? What's your CV supposed to do? And how is it going to do that? So it's your most important business document, okay? You maybe thought your bank statement was more important, but your CV is going to determine your bank statement. What to say, how to say it. And again, your CV, although, it's a 1 or 2 page thing, and all it's got to do is get your foot in the door. All it's got to do is get you an interview. But if it doesn't work and you don't get anybody's attention, so you don't have a job and you're on the outside and you're stuck and you're miserable. And if it works, if your CV is powerful and it gets people to call you or send you an email or to invite you in for an interview, now you got a shot at it. Now you can make it happen. So the importance of your CV cannot be overestimated. So it's for sure worth investing time and energy in understanding what it is and how it works and how to make a good one. Okay, so again, like I said, I'm starting with big picture stuff. This one's called Me Incorporated, the Facts of Life. And it's the fact is that the job market is brutal and it favors the employers. It's brutal because it's really competitive, right? There's 7 billion people on the planet, and we're all sort of competing with one another today because of the global village, right? So the Indians and the Ukrainians and the Bulgarians and everybody else, there's a way to employ people from anywhere in the world. So we're all in it. And there's a scarcity of resources. That's like the first law of economics, that there's not going to be plenty for everybody. It's going to be sort of first come, first serve. Whoever gets the worm gets it. So it is a competitive market, and it's in favor of the companies because they have the money. They're going to decide who they pick to hire, and they're going to hire the most professional person to solve their problems. We're going to talk about what they're looking for in a minute. So we're sort of the underdog in this, and we're coming as like maybe we're the weaker party. And so we are here this evening to talk about how to strengthen what we are offering and how to show our best face and to give it our best shot. And one of the expressions that we'll focus on is being your best professional self, okay? Yates, he comments, a lot of people say, oh, be yourself. And he says, no, don't be yourself. Be your best professional self, okay? And he says you should devote research to that. Think about people that are successful, your uncle or your cousin or somebody, or whether it's Bill Gates or whoever you think is successful or that is successful. What makes them successful? Think about some of their character traits. And maybe think about some losers or failures or people that haven't made it and they're in a situation you wouldn't want to be in, and think, how did they get there and why did that happen to them? Are there some things about their personality or decisions they made that were bad, and I don't want to let that happen to me? So you want to learn from others. And again, we're trying to make you into your best professional self, to be a great professional that brings a ton of value. At the end of the day, this is sort of a game. It's a strategic game. And it's sort of every man for himself. It's me incorporated. And in this way, it's sort of me against the company. But ultimately, I want to work for the company. I want to bring the company value, and I want to be paid. Have a compensation package which reflects the true value that I bring to the company. So there's nothing dishonest, or there's no remia, there's no trickery or swindling. And I'm not going to tell you to tell any lies or say anything false. We're totally on the up and up, and I'm talking only ethical business here. But you do have to be savvy. It is a little bit of a poker game. And so you always want to lead with your strongest card. You want to make the impression and talk about your strengths, and you want to cover and de-emphasize your weaknesses. And that's not dishonest, that's just smart. If you go into, think about a job interview, and this has happened to me, and somebody tells you, oh, I probably wouldn't really be very good at this job because of, my personality. So you think, you're an idiot. Why are you telling me that? And if you're so stupid to tell me that about yourself, then you're going to probably tell my customers that the company's not really good and they shouldn't really buy from us. So being honest, brutally honest, and telling everything is not good business. It's not good sense. It's just stupidity. So you have to be a little bit smarter than that. You have to have strategic thinking and think about presenting your best professional self. Okay. So you need to hone a strategy to advance yourself in order to provide for your financial future. Like I said from the very beginning of the course, we're not here just because we're curious about cybersecurity. It's interesting, but we're here to earn a living. And that's a very honorable thing. Ashrecha v'toivlach, right? Hanene miyagias kapav. If a person works and earns an honest living, it's really wonderful in this world and the next. So that's a really honorable thing to do. And so you have to be smart to make it happen. So see yourself as a company and think of your CV as the key marketing document of your company, okay? That's our frame of reference. And now recognize the power of your CV. If your CV works, then you work, and if not, not. Your CV is part of the professional branding, which includes how you do your job search, your interview, all of your career management. Today, the way a lot of recruiting works is that things have to first get past the computer before a human being is going to see your CV. So one of the things your CV needs to do is to use particular keywords that the recruiters have put in there, that if the CV doesn't have certain keywords, it won't get to a human being. So your CV needs to get past the recruiting database and then into the hands of the recruiter. And this is also sort of scary, but the recruiter will look at it for approximately 5 to 45 seconds. And although that's sort of shocking, but if you think about it, and I can testify to this, if I'm looking at CVs, I look at them for a few seconds and I see what catches my eye, maybe somewhere they worked, somewhere they studied, something that I recognize, maybe some skills, whatever catches my eye. I look at it for a few more seconds and then I'm on to the next one and, whatever. So you don't have a long time to deliver your message. So it's got to be really, focused and powerful. And if you have something good to say there, so you got to make sure it's up front near the top and in, big enough letters. And one of the things we're going to talk about today is also, if you are writing a CV, you're just starting out in cybersecurity. You don't have a rich background in cybersecurity. So that's sort of a weakness. Okay, it's not your fault, but it's a fact. So you got to try to go around that and emphasize other strengths and deliver the message that's going to open the door for you to get yourself an interview. And of course, we're here for you, and we Bezrat Hashem can help you get interviews. And so, we're going to help you break down some of the doors. But we're talking right now in general about strategic marketing and professional branding of yourself and how you're going to put that into your CV, which is your most important marketing document about your personal brand. So it doesn't have to be only one page. It's possibly 2 pages, but you want to keep it short and simple, sharp and to the point. The recruiter, the person looking at your CV, they don't want to spend a long time reading it. They want to find the right person for the job and they themselves get back to work. And even if they're an HR person, they don't want to spend a long time on it. They want to complete the task and go on. I will just say in passing, and we'll talk about it on a different occasion in job interviews, your CV will be in the hands of different kinds of people. Different kinds of people will be reading it. It could be an HR person, which is usually a woman in her 30s or 40s, right? It could be a CTO, right, which is a man in his 40s. Again, these are generalities. And it could be the CEO, who is a man in his 50s or 60s. But they're coming at it, with different angles. The CTO is going to really look at the cyber skills, at the technical stuff. The CEO may be more the business part of it, and the HR person is really making sure you have all the prerequisites that she was given in the list of prerequisites. So they're each coming and looking at your document with a different pair of eyes, and so you need to sort of answer for to all of them because you don't know who's going to be holding your CV. So let's go on. The basic of your CV is that the game here is, the message that we're trying to deliver is, this company is looking to hire someone. And you want to show that I understand what they're looking for and I have what they're looking for, okay? And I want to clarify this point even greater. The relationship between you as a job hunter and the company the employer, the potential employer, is one of seller and buyer. You are selling and they are buying, okay? So the customer here is the company and you are selling yourself, okay? So remember, in business, the customer is king. That's not always true in Israel, but remember, in North America, it is. And that's how you should be thinking in your CV. The company is hiring somebody because there's a job that needs to be done. They're trying to make money running their business and they need somebody to do something. So you want to communicate the message that you understand what is necessary to do and how to succeed in that job for which you're applying, and that you, through this piece of paper, will show that you get it and you have it, okay? So in order to understand truly what they're looking for and what they need and the culture and so forth, you need to study all available information on that particular company, the job, and all the relevant issues. And in a sense, a lot of what we're learning in this course is background information about the industry to understand the kind of issues that are important to cyber companies. You want to address those things in your CV. One of the things that Martin Yates says is, don't be a Swiss Army knife. I could do everything, 64 different things in the knife. Be a human laser. Tailor your CV to show you have the necessary skills and understanding for this particular job. And I want to talk now about maybe honesty. A person could be extremely honest and think it would be dishonest for me to have two different CVs. I'm only one person, so how could I send out two different CVs to two different companies? That would be dishonest. That would be a mistake, okay? You'd be wrong about that. Because every time you send out a CV for a different job, your CV should reflect what they're looking for in that different job, in that different company. And so you always have to tweak and tailor your CV for the particular opportunity that you are going for. So it's not necessarily major things, it could be minor things, but you want to take words that they used, concepts, skills, whatever they're looking for, you want to find that in yourself. Again, we're talking honesty. We're talking that I have what they're looking for. I understand what they're looking for. I've searched inside myself and found that I have it. Because if I don't have what they're looking for, then why am I applying for the job, right? So I should forget this job and look for a different one. So we're understanding what they want, and then we are finding out how we are that person, that professional that they're looking for, and now we need to communicate that in this document. And I do want to tell you a beautiful Dvar Torah that is not so many people know. It's a little bit counterintuitive, and that is when Moshe Rabbeinu, on the last day of his life, he wrote Sifrei Torah. 13 is the number, I would say. And there's Divrei Torah that says he wrote 13 different Sifrei Torah. Each one for the Shvatim was a little bit different according to the character and the nuances and the appropriateness for each of the tribes. So that's a fascinating idea. We all know there's Shivim Panim LeTorah. The Rizal says there's Shishim Ribo, and it's sort of infinite. But even in the Sefer Torah itself, Moshe Rabbeinu gave different Sifrei Torah, maybe with Yuds and Vavs, or however they were different. There's more talk about this, what's called the Shar HaKoilel in the Beis HaMikdash. People would come in through different gates based on what tribe they were from. And today we all come through this 13th gate, the Shar HaKoilel. It has to do with Nusach Ari and Nusach Chabad and so forth. I'm just trying to give you an analogy and to satisfy your ethics that even though you're one person and you're a single professional, but you'll have many different CVs. And essentially, every time you send out a CV, you'll adjust it for this particular opportunity to, again, the message is, I know what you're looking for. I am that. I have that, those skills and that persona, and this is how I can prove it and demonstrate that to you. So understand what the employer is looking for. What are the priorities? Remember, the employer is your customer. The customer's right, always right. Try to tell your own story in a way that shows that you understand his needs. Okay, I wrote here what your CV is not. And again, I've seen CVs like this. People use their CV as narrative therapy to tell their life story in a way which makes them feel good. Okay, so very nice, but that's not going to get you a job. Your CV is a sales document. The objective is to get you an interview with the employer. Nothing more, nothing less. If you do want to write a CV to make yourself feel good and tell your life story, so go ahead, write one. Send it to yourself, send it to your mom, send it to your therapist, your Rebbe, your Chavrusa, and send it to me. Don't send it to your prospective employer. They're not in business to make you feel good. They're in business to make money. Okay, so don't waste their time. The CV you send to the employer is about how you match what he, the customer, the employer is looking for. It's not what you want to say, it's what they want to hear. And again, we're not talking about falsehood or lying. We're talking about true statements about yourself, of things that you have within you, your accomplishments, who you are and what you've done. But it's what they need from you. That's what you want to tell them, because that's what's going to get you the interview and get you hired. Remember, the customer, the employer is the king. Now, a lot of you have come, if any, with Beis Yaakov education, you've learned about, you want to get a great job and earn a lot of money to be Mefarnes Bayit Shel Torah, which is lovely, beautiful, but no company is employing you in order to livnot Bayit Shel Torah. That is not in any company's mission statement. Companies' mission statements are basically to make money by providing certain goods and services. So they're not hiring you in order to pay you a salary in order to help your husband stay in koilel or in order to help you learn half a day. They don't care about any of that. They're in business to make money and to earn a living and to affect the world however they want to affect the world. And they're hiring you to help them in their mission. So they're hiring you to make money for the company, or to save money for the company, or to save time and increase productivity. So your values, which may be important, and maybe there'll be a place for that in the interview, but it'll be a tiny place. The main part of your values that you'll want to be talking about and demonstrating are your dedication to success, to professional success, to being a great professional. That's what it's about. Your CV needs to solve the employer's problems by making him more money, saving him money, or increasing productivity. Your CV should tell the story to demonstrate how you will do this because of the skills you have and the things you represent and what you know how to do. Other information is a distraction. You're a wonderful person, you're saving the world, etc., etc. Save it. Use it at the cocktail party. But your CV is, bare bones. How are you the right person for this job? Okay. Martin Yates has a really big concept that he calls your TJD, and that is your target job deconstruction. And so, there's really half a dozen different jobs that people finish this course and they begin working in. I think you know them already. Tonight we're going to hear from Malya Bezrat Hashem at 9:00. She's working in GRC. We have a lot of people who work as a SOC analyst. We have some people working as pen testers. We've had people working in IR, incident response. We had people that jumped almost immediately to be a virtual CISO. Those are the main things that people are doing. And if you come to a decision of which one of those things, or certainly if you're sending a CV for one of those job descriptions, you want to research everything you can about that job title. And you want to deconstruct, which means to analyze and to take it apart and figure it out, to deconstruct what the customer, the employer, is looking for in your target job. Study the ads for the positions, Google the job, understand the industry, do exhaustive research. And the truth is, one of the things, actually, we had a bunch of students who went now to NES and interacted there with them. And again, you're not finished with the course. There's another 2.5 months, however long there is. But the course is a wonderful foundation and to a broad variety of topics in the world of cybersecurity. But some of the more commercial aspects of like working in a SOC, and the products that you'll be working with are not something you're going to get a lot of in the course. And so that's worthwhile for you to try and get more on your own and to supplement your studies in those ways. So that's sort of part of your target job deconstruction. You're going to settle on a target job title, let's say. You're qualified for more than one position, but your CV should probably be targeted for one position, and you could have more than one CV. This is my CV for SOC analyst. This is my CV for GRC. And there's obviously there's some overlap, but there's also some distinctions between them, okay? So again, you're doing a lot of research to understand, to deconstruct, to take apart what a successful person with that job title, what do they have? What skills, what character, etc. And he goes further. Template for the story your CV should tell, the objective standard against which to compare your CV. I mean, there's lots of CVs, sample CVs online, right? You got to Google that. You Google, entry-level cybersecurity CV. You Google SOC analyst, tier 1 CV, and you'll see stuff and you'll learn from it and you'll get ideas. You'll understand what is going to be the focus of the interview, likely questions you'll be asked. Think about examples you're going to use to illustrate your answers. The behavioral profile for getting hired. How do you want to behave at the interview? What kind of a behavioral profile for not getting hired? And we had a student in the course who was actually pretty good at cybersecurity. He was an interesting story, a complicated person. He had been through some health difficulties. And when we met him, he was actually off the derech. And through the course, he put his life together. He actually got married and he was doing good. But I don't know if it held or things fell apart for him. But he basically couldn't get a job because he was a jerk. And when he would come to the job interview, he would misbehave and say the wrong things and just act like a jerk. And so nobody wanted to hire him. So he said to us, could you just get me a job? And I'm like, no, I can't just get you a job. A job is like a shidduch. I could set up dates for you, but if you act like a jerk on the date, so guess what? No one's going to want to marry you. So you have to realize this is really personal. This is Kriyas Yamsuf, right? Like Zivugam is Kasha Kriyas Yamsuf, so is Parnasasam. So you have to really sort of look inside yourself and think about, as I said, becoming your best professional self to tell the story in your CV and then in your interview to get yourself a job. Okay, so he's talking more about the target job deconstruction process. Collect postings, again, we said use Google, go to various job sites, Indeed or Job Bank USA, Jobster, whatever. In Israel, there's also websites. Create a target job deconstruction document for each position. Identify target job titles, identify skills, responsibilities, problems to solve, behavioral profile of success, behavioral profile of failure. We talked about that. More nitty gritty on CVs. Don't just throw a bunch of garbage in there, okay? You could do that, like I said, if you Google it and you go to like a resume building website, which is not a bad idea, but if you just take like the regular standard sort of garbage that they give you, so it'll be GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, right? That's not going to be a very strong CV. Your CV needs to tell a true and powerful personal story. You need to, it's got to sort of jump out from the crowd. I watched, and I'll share the link with you. I watched a YouTube video today of someone called the Cyber Mentor about writing a good CV. He was good. He was pretty technical. He was saying that for every position, 100 people apply. And that's in a market where there's a shortage of people. So it's complicated to understand that. But anyway, it is competitive. There's lots of people out there. Your CV has got to make you stand out somehow. So again, the name of the game is understanding that you know what the customer is looking for. Again, you got to think about that. That's part of your strategic thinking. Then you need to look inside your own personal history and find that stuff. And let me give you an example. We had a guy who was a successful pen tester today. And before he had been at Avrech Koilel, but he had run a summer camp, okay? Canoeing up in Canada. And so if you run a summer camp canoeing in Canada, you have to deal with real-time problem solving, right? You have to be very resourceful. So that job, it's not cybersecurity, but there are some skills that are relevant to what you're going to be doing in maybe whether you're in the soccer, wherever you are. My point is you have to be creative. I'll give you another example. We had a guy recently who finished the course in the summer. He was a wonderful guy out in Las Vegas. I really loved him. And he was about 40 years old and he had jobs, this and that. He was sort of like a sound man, I think. And now he was really gung ho on our course and learning IT and going into cyber. And what he had been doing until that point had to do with audio. Like I said, it was a little more than sound man because it had to do with recordings and he worked for recording, DJ. I don't know exactly. But as he was composing his CV, he wrote to me once on the Slack channel. He said, would you say, can I say that my experience in audio is experience in IT? And so, we thought about it for a minute and we said, of course, that audio was data, that was information technology. So that wasn't obvious. He hadn't always considered himself an IT professional. But now that he was marketing himself as an IT/cyber professional, he was able to look back into his career as a sound man and say that what he had been doing included IT because it was about putting hardware together and making sure systems worked, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just saying, again, I'm never for lying. My wife maybe is for lying if you don't get caught, but I'm against that. I am for truth telling, but you do need to be creative, savvy. You have to think, looking deep into yourself and find the things that they're looking for. Examine everything you have ever done from the perspective of your target job deconstruction. Complete a detailed questionnaire on your complete professional past of everything you've ever done. Because, maybe you're a lifeguard or a camp counselor or whatever, and it's probably not relevant and you probably don't need to include it on your CV. But if there was some aspect of it which is relevant and which is impressive or important to the story you're telling to this potential employer, then do include it, right? So you have to make a strategic, a tactical decision whether to include everything you did. You do not need to write everything you've ever done since your bar mitzvah or the age of 18 or anything like that. It is up to you to tell the story in the way that's going to present your best professional self. This is sort of a smaller point, but important point that in your CV, because you're trying to get it to stand out and be powerful and alive, so you want to use action verbs. You don't just want to say, I was this or I did that. That's sort of dead language. You want to use action verbs to describe your work experience. Things like accomplished, built, completed, created, designed, demonstrated, developed, examined, facilitated, generated, headed, implemented, launched, marketed, negotiated, originated, performed, published, programmed, reduced, solved, trained, upgraded, validated, wrote. So those are action verbs. I did stuff. It's not just I got a job and held the job for a year and a half. I did stuff. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the bullet points of let's say previous jobs or things you've done. So these are your accomplishments, maybe your professional past. He calls it the CAR format. CAR is challenge, action, and results. So look, and again, this is for people that do have some work experience. What was the pain point? What was the problem that you solved? What action did you take to solve it? And what were the measurable results? What was the value to the company? How many dollars did you save or how many sales did you make? If you can put in numbers, okay, and they don't have to be like $100 or $200. It could be 150%. I increased sales by 150%, or I saved 30% on expenses, whatever it is. But if you add numbers, so it gives credibility, it gives strength and specificity to your message. So that's a really good thing. That's what you want to do. Use numbers to quantify your successes and the contribution you made to previous employers, right? One of the things we're going to see, and if you'll Google, there's some funny YouTubes about things you should never say in a job interview. And one of the things you never want to do, you never want to badmouth previous company you worked for, or just about anybody. Because if you come with negative emotion to a job interview, so it's pretty obvious that you're a negative person. And the word used for that in the field neuroticism. Okay, and it's not that you're sick; it's just that you have all this negative energy, and negative energy is bad for business. So you always want to bring, if you need to drink an extra cup of coffee or whatever you need to do, or have a chocolate bar or a piece of candy, come in with a smile on your face. Come in with positive energy, and your CV and the interview, everything needs to be in a very positive way about victory and success and good stuff you've done. So you never want to, say bad things about, past failures, or why they fired you from your previous job, or you quit because your boss was a jerk. If you fought with your last boss, you're probably going to fight with your next boss. Okay. So I don't want to be your next boss because you're just going to fight with me. So you always want to be really careful to show really positive attitude and energy. Okay. This was talking about quantifying, increase in sales, productivity, volume, etc., generate new business, forge relationships, partnerships, strategic alliances, save money, design new stuff, meet an impossible deadline, bring a major project in under budget, etc., etc. Of course, I will share my slides, and you're welcome to review them. How did your company benefit from your performance, right? If you can, those messages are great. If I helped another company succeed, then I can probably help your company succeed. I'm the kind of person that's a really valuable member of team that helps my team succeed. That's who you want to be. Okay, formatting your CV. First impressions are, I don't know if it's surprising or not, but they're important, right? So looks are important. You may need a cover letter for some opportunities. Other times you don't. You're just like uploading your CV or, whatever, emailing it. But sometimes you will have a sentence or two or three of a cover letter. You should also Google that, how to write a cover letter. It gives you a little more freedom of how to sort of tell your story very, very briefly, but to get the attention of why you think this is a great opportunity for the company and for you. But your cover letter and your CV need to be a graphic success, in addition to documenting your professional success. So craft an effective cover letter to introduce your CV. They should match in font, tone, and content. Your cover letter may briefly state your unique qualifications for the position by stating how you fulfill the characteristics which the employer seeks. Okay, what your CV needs to do. I can't see my top of the screen. That's okay. An effective CV needs to maximize your performance in the database. As we mentioned that the first one to see your CV will be the computer, and you got to get past that stage. Next, it will demonstrate your complete grasp of the job's deliverables. Meaning, if you have this job, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to read the logs, right, in the SOC, right? You're going to be looking, and then you're going to be writing reports. So you need to talk about those reports that you're going to be writing when you're working on in their SOC, right? Your CV needs to create a professional brand for yourself. It needs to showcase relevant achievements, attributes, and expertise. And it needs to minimize weaknesses, which again could even be your age or your inexperience, which is not your fault, but it's a fact. So your CV is meant to emphasize your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. We're now going to talk briefly about 3 formats to a CV. It does not need to be chronological. And for a lot of you, it's not going to be chronological because maybe you're coming with 0 experience. So there's no timeline to speak of. Recently, we had a guy in the course. I would guess he's between 28 and 32 or something like that. I don't know exactly. But his CV, which was not bad, it had, of course, his cyber skills, and we're going to talk about that. But it had so little outside of the course and his stuff that it made it sound like he was just born yesterday. So I told him he had to put something about his education before he came to CyberWise. So he ended up putting, that he had post-high school Talmudic, studies for, 9 years or something, which was fine. It's not a great thing to have Talmudic studies on your CV, not because they're bad or anybody's anti-Semitic, just because it's not relevant. And there's a certain stigma sort of to yeshiva guys or koilel, whatever. So generally, I'm against putting the word yeshiva, Talmud, or koilel onto a CV if you can keep it off, but you can't pretend that you're, 1 year old or 19 if you're 30 years old. You've been doing something for the past years. So you could say you were a senior researcher, right, in, Jewish thought or something like that. You can find a creative way to say it, but you don't want to, you do want to express a little bit about your maturity if you're not, a 19-year-old person. And if you're 19, that's great. Anyway, we're talking about formatting your CV. So the first format, of course, is chronological, and it's the most common. It starts with your current job title and responsibilities, and it works its way back. And it's good for showing growth if you're in like the same profession. I've been doing this 30 years, and I've had this position for 10, and the one before that for 5, and another one, and so forth. So that's really it builds a case logically. The weakness of that, it's not good if you're just out of school, if you're changing careers. I was an accountant and now I'm becoming a chef. So my experience as an accountant does not help me as a chef. So, maybe I'm a mother and I had kids for the past 12 years. I've been at home with my children. I'm now 40 and I'm coming back to the workplace. So to have, 12 years stay-at-home mom, it's not that it's a busha. Again, that's very honorable, but it's not relevant to this job situation. So you may put in the jobs you had before, and then, you won't have any job that you did last year because you were at home with your kids, which is fine, but you don't need to emphasize that, okay? So the chronological is good in some cases, but for a lot of us, it's not good because we don't have a long history in the cyber profession. So probably we are not going to have a chronological CV if it's our first in this field. Rather, we're going to have a functional CV, and it's going to focus on professional skills, the target job title, performance career summary, core competencies, performance highlights. I didn't edit this slide today. What it's going to have, and I'm going to talk about it more in a minute, are certifications, skills, and projects. Okay, that's going to be the meat and potatoes of our CV given our situation. The strengths are the functional CV is free form. It's good for entry-level professionals with skimpy experience. It's good for experienced professionals who are changing careers, or returnees, like mothers who had been at home and then are coming back after a long absence. It's not as conventional. They may say to this mom, okay, the last time you worked was in 2009. What have you been doing since then? And you'll say, well, I've been at home with my children. And you'll say, but during that time, I stayed up with the literature of the industry, or, this course brought me up to date, whatever you're going to say. But you need to be prepared to answer that question. Of course, this CV can be a combination of chronological and functional. That it says that's most productive in database performance, flexibility. It's difficult. Fine. Keeping it simple, 5 steps to a great CV. And this is from Martin Yates. For me, I just want to give it to you. And one of the messages here, besides all the others, is just how serious and detailed is this process of a CV. It's not something you're going to do in 45 minutes and be done with it. It's something you really should give a lot of thought to, every word on that page, what it does say and what it doesn't say, and where's it going and what's it for, and how's it going to get there. You do want to think about the big picture here of where am I trying to get and how can I get there? What does it need to say and how does it need to say it? So 5 steps to a great CV. First draft containing the essentials of your story based on your target job deconstruction. Okay, so you've done a bunch of research already. 2, 3, 5, gradually improving versions built over a week, adding, subtracting, cutting, moving, pasting. Third draft to integrate your defined professional brand throughout the CV. Fourth draft, pasting your work into various templates. There's lots of templates, again, even in Microsoft Word, but all the more so on Google, tweaking it as you go. Final draft of a formatted resume, grammatical editing and polish. What goes into your CV and what doesn't? So include any languages that you speak. In fact, we have an opportunity right now for any foreign language speakers of French, or it has to do with translating cyber stuff. But even English speakers, so we have a job opportunity. So foreign languages is a huge asset because there's always people in this country that need people, in that country to speak that language. So foreign languages are a huge asset. Military experience, if you have any, Projects, okay, professional projects. And I think for us, especially who don't have work experience, projects are a really big deal. Publications, okay, if you had something published, that's great. But even on GitHub, or just the fact that you uploaded it here or there, put a link to it and put it in. If you're a member of professional associations, cyber ladies, whatever it is, put that in. Don't include a title like, this is my name, CV, resume. Okay, we know it's your resume, just put your name, okay? You don't have to say available. We know you're available, that's why you're applying for the job. Salary has no place, age, race, religion, gender, national origin, photo, unless you're applying to be, a model. So probably your photo doesn't belong. Health, physical description, not relevant. Judgment call, summer, part-time employment. This, he says, reason for leaving previous job. I can't imagine how you'd work that in. References. Okay, I'm going to show you momentarily a CV that actually has references. It's fine. Name changes. You were married or you weren't, whatever, marital status. Written testimonials. Okay, if you have some really wonderful things from maybe some known people, someone famous said something good about you. Personal interest clubs, closing brand statement. Those are things you might want to have. Okay. So this is a slide I added today, cyber stuff. In cyber, again, it's a very technical field, and they want to hire people. They don't care much about you, whether you have tattoos, or you wear a sheitel, or you wear a tichel, or you have langa payas, or you wear this kippah or that kippah, or anything else. Nobody cares. Okay, just do the work. Okay. Cyber is so technical. It's so much about hands on keyboard. If you can do it, I like you. If you can't, I don't. I don't have time for you. The world of cyber is, we're overworked and underpaid. I don't know if we're underpaid, but the hackers are really busy. So we're really busy. So I need people that can do the stuff and are learning the stuff and are self-learners and quick learners and don't ask stupid questions. Just Google it and figure it out yourself. So if you can give that message in your CV that you know the stuff and you're learning more all the time, that you're an ongoing learner, that's a key thing. I mean, just saying those words, ongoing learning, that's sort of meaningless, right? Because anybody could say that. But the fact that you have certifications, you're getting a certification, right? Working on CompTIA Security Plus, projected, February 2023. That's a good thing to say. That says you're working on your first certification. If you have it already, great. So certifications are really, really tried and tested and proof positive that you know something because you took an objective test, a standardized test, and you passed. So I want to know that. A list of your cyber skills is also good, of your projects, showing me what you did. And that's good, not only showing me you've actually done some stuff and you're sharing with me. I could go to GitHub and read your code if I'm a CTO, but also at the job interview, it'll give us something to talk about. You made a program to do this or that. Oh, that's interesting. I also am interested in that. Tell me how you did it. And that's an opening for a connection between you and a CEO or a CTO, whatever, that gives you something to reference in your professional branding. So those are really three key things for cyber dafka: certifications, skills, and projects. Helpful tips, always in a CV, short sentences. Don't use big words to try to inflate yourself, look stupid. Eliminate pronouns. You don't need to say I, and articles whenever possible, shorten to the point. Use bullets is good format. It doesn't have to be only one page. If you have a lot to say that's relevant, it could be 2 pages, but for someone who at an entry level, you'd have to sort of convince me why it should take more than 1 page. Use your best friend Google. Here's a bunch of places. I put another one recently in the Slack channel. I'm going to show you one now. I don't have a lot of time left because I want to be on time for Malia. Online tools, LinkedIn. Okay, LinkedIn deserves really a full presentation. I hope we'll have one about creating your LinkedIn profile. Very, very important. That's sort of who you are. That's sort of your chalon ra'ava. That's your, the window, the storefront window to the world of you as a professional is really your LinkedIn. So I know that maybe some of you are reluctant or shy or from or tznius or whatever about having LinkedIn. It's not Facebook, okay? I agree you don't need Facebook if you don't want it, but LinkedIn If you're an unmarried girl and you're not ready for it, so I respect that. But if you're already getting your first job, then I think you should be on LinkedIn. And you don't even have to put your picture. You could make it without your picture, but just to be there as a professional, you should really be on LinkedIn. Excuse me. Websites of target companies, Israeli high-tech sites. Again, I'll share all this with you. Look, here's an important pointer. Follow the money. Companies who raised money, 1 million, 10 million, 20 million, they're now hiring because they have money. So if you go to the investment page of Globes and see which cyber companies raised money, you may find that's a good place to try to get a job. It's a long process. You're not going to get a job in a day. It takes not a day or a week, but it takes months, okay? So, people sometimes get, short and, oh, you said you're going to help me get a job. Well, I finished the course 3 weeks ago and I still don't have a job. Okay, it's not a 3-week thing. It takes time and it's a process. You got to send your CV. You got to follow up a little. If they get back to you or you get back to them, it's a whole process. You got to manage the process. You got to be in the game, okay? How crucial is it to enter job market at the start of the year? Yeshaya is asking a great question about timing. And Yeshaya, I think you're in Georgia, but we're in Israel. And in Israel, it's now Achrei Chagim. We got to that part of the year called Achrei Chagim. And for like 4 months, everybody's been putting off everything. Oh, Achrei Chagim, Kayitz Akshav, Chagim Akshav. Nobody wants to do any business or hire anybody until Achrei Chagim. So it's now Achrei Chagim. Of course, America has a little different cycle with the Xmas season when they're hiring. So there is definitely a calendar that does make a difference. But at the end of the day, the world has many different cogs turning in it. There's hashgacha pratis from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So you gotta, whenever you're ready to look for a job, go look for a job. But there are definitely seasonal aspects. Is July, August dead? Dead is too strong a word. They are quieter. July and August are quieter, without a doubt. Okay, I do want to finish. Okay, that's really my last slide. I didn't get to share with you samples, which is okay. When you're ready to write your first CV, if you want a sample from me to help you brainstorm and get ideas, I'll be happy to send you some sample CVs of our students, and that'll be a good place to start. So if anybody has any particular questions, I would field them. Otherwise, let's see. Malia's here. Okay. I'm going to stop that recording.